Never shall innocent blood be shed, yet the blood of the wicked shall flow like a river. The three shall spread their blackened wings and be the vengeful striking hammer of God. You people have been chosen to reveal our existence to the world. You will witness what happens here today, and you will tell of it later. All eyes to the front. You must watch, dear. It'll all be over soon.
Now you will receive us. We do not ask for your poor or your hungry. We do not want your tired and sick.
It is your corrupt we claim.
It is your evil that will be sought by us.
With every breath, we shall hunt them down.
Each day, we will spill their blood till it rains down from the skies.
Do not kill. Do not rape. Do not steal. These are principles which every man of every faith can embrace.
These are not polite suggestions. These are codes of behavior. And those of you that ignore them will pay the dearest cost.
There are varying degrees of evil. We urge you lesser forms of filth, not to push the bounds and cross over into true corruption, into our domain.
For if you do, one day you will look behind you and you will see we three. And on that day, you will reap it.
And we will send you to whatever God you wish.
And shepherds we shall be, for thee, my lord, for thee. Power hath descended forth from thy hand. May swiftly carry out thy command. So we shall flow river forth to thee, and teeming with souls shall it ever be.
In nomine Patri.
Et Filii, Spiritus Sancti.
How far are we gonna take this, Star?
The question is not how far. The question is, do you possess the Constitution? The depth of faith to go as far as is needed?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, for those of you who listened to last week's stream, you already have a clue as to where we're going to go with tonight's stream. You guys have anything to say before we jump in?
No, want to see where you're going to take this.
Okay, well, I'm going to start out with my PowerPoint, go through a couple slides, and then we're going to watch some videos, and then we're going to have some commentary, which is going to be the bulk of the program. And then there'll be a conclusion. So here, let's see. Well, I guess we'll just do it this way. Oh, I guess it's not showing up the way I anticipated.
Okay, if you want to make it bigger, you see the slider with the 37% on the bottom, and there's a funny looking icon right to the left of it. Click that.
Okay, say that again.
So there's the slider with the 37% next to it, so the plus and minus. I know we're boomering over here, Nick.
Oh, I don't see that.
Nah, Sonny.
I just went on to slideshow.
No, there's a bar, bottom right of your screen. It says
Bottom right of my screen.
it says
62.
I don't see it. No, it's not on my screen. We'll just do it this way. I'll
He's
just
boomering.
boomer through this. Okay, anyway. 3 essential concepts of civilization.
knowing PowerPoint number 1.
Hey, you got to give a little bit of slack to us boomers. Maybe we'll get some concepts right once in a while. So I'll just go with it.
All
now,
right,
are these the only essential concepts? I don't know. Got no clue. Are these the most essential concepts? Again, I don't have a clue. They're just some. Maybe they are the most important. Maybe they're not. So we'll figure that out. So I want to point out, this is speculation. And it's not a theory. Oh, why do I say this? What is a theory? Theory is something somebody's done some work on to test it, done some research, compared it to reality. This is not a theory because it's just speculation. Someone could turn this into a theory, but it's not. So, how did I arrive at this? Well, there's some aspects of history. There's some philosophy. There's some sociology. There's a bit of theology and psychology. How do individual people behave? How do they behave collectively as a society? What's the philosophy of this? How did this happen? How did people behave throughout history? What's happened in the past? Okay, as you see, this involves aspects of a lot of different fields of study. And I have no credentials in any of these fields. I do have an engineering degree, but this is my deduction and my speculation. And the word for tonight, our vocabulary word, is autodidactic. Nick or Plutarch, would you care to define that word?
Self-learning, self-taught.
Pretty much. Auto means self. Didactic means to deduce or discover or learn. So we have done programs on intelligence, the IQ, G, we didn't really call out G much, but intelligence. And in a lot of areas, the development of new concepts does not necessarily come from people who study in those fields. It comes from people who teach themselves or take what they learn from another field and apply it, come up with new ideas because they have a different way of thinking. And okay, so that's what I'm doing.
And okay, I just want to say something on that. Remember, people, Albert Einstein did not study theoretical physics in school. Tesla, he might be asking what the school is. You know, like some of the great, when it comes to intelligence, all schooling can do is give you information and then get in your way. School is it is actually built and structured for average, for normal. Folks like Einstein, Tesla, Alexander Graham Bell, these guys were just highly intelligent dudes who looked at something and said, I'll bet I can do better. I'll bet I can think of something better. I'll bet I can design something better. You know, this concept that accreditation is the only thing that matters and is the only thing that grants you the authority to speak is a double fallacy. First, it's an appeal to accreditation, and then it's an appeal to authority. When the reality is that the people who hold these credentials are very often mediocre at best. If you guys have ever heard the phrase, those who can't do, teach, yeah. It comes from somewhere real.
So what I'm going to present tonight, you can say, this guy doesn't have a clue as to what he's talking about. That's entirely valid. You can reach that conclusion. It's not going to hurt my feelings. On the other hand, you can say, well, gee, this kind of makes sense. Maybe I should take it further. Maybe, in fact, there could actually be the kernel of basis for someone to do a thesis on this. Is it true? To turn this speculation into a theory? I don't know. I'm not going to do it because I don't care to do it. I've taken it as far as I want to take it. So, here are the concepts. The concept of maintenance, which in the Christian world, I am calling stewardship. You're taking something that exists and maintaining it so it works into the future. That's what stewardship is. You're given something, take care of this, bring it to the future. Low time preference. That means, yeah, I can't have it now. I need to plan. I need to have a legacy. You've all heard the statement, don't eat the seed corn. If you eat your seed corn, you got no corn to plant, and next year you're not going to have a crop. Okay. Low time preference means I don't need it now because I'm planning for the future. That's legacy.
Another interject here. Low time preference is an aspect of high IQ, but it is not all of high IQ. Okay. I think you'll get into that more, but I want to make that clear that high IQ people generally are the ones who have low time preference. But that is not all of it.
Absolutely. And I will make that point because that's an important point, and we'll get back to that. The third one, and this is talked about a lot in the Red Pill, primarily in respect to women, is accountability. Okay, well, that's the secular word, accountability. Oh, in the Christian world, what is the essential component of accountability? It is humility. I am not the be all, know all, always right. I'm humble. I can be wrong. I can mess up. Yeah. Humility
Wow,
is
boomer?
necessary
A
to have
boomer?
accountability.
Wait, a
Go
boomer
ahead,
here
Nick.
has a boomer here is accountability / humility? Wow.
Well, we've
What do you
talked
have
about this
against boomers,
before.
Nick?
What? You're technically not a boomer, but you're close up there. I just like to throw you under the bus.
Well, and we have actually talked about this before, but it's been a while. Even in a generation, generations are split into three components. You have your leaders, your followers, and your rebels. And so about 10 to 15% of each generation is rebels. So I think we can probably pretty safely put Steve in the boomer rebel camp.
Okay. So, as long as we're on the topic of boomers, how did boomers do at maintenance of what they were given?
Oh dear.
It depends. Depends on what it is. Generally they grew up being able to work on their own cars. Of course, cars were much simpler to take care of. You didn't have all these complex parts and electronics. Um, parts are easy to reach, install, but yeah, they grew up knowing how to take. Some of them still grew up on the farm. They kind of knew how to take care of animals, farm equipment, automobiles, etc.
Okay.
And
Okay,
So,
Nick.
did they take care of it for themselves?
Yes.
Okay, they were given
Ooh,
this gift of this modern. I mean, the U.S. was on top post World War II. The boomers inherited the greatest manufacturing base on earth, uh, cheap houses, great
yeah.
retirement, all this stuff. And they had to maintain that with self discipline, but yet maintenance is there's some discipline aspect here to maintain their children. Now that flows into low time preference. Okay, I made all this money. Now I'm going to retire and spend my grandchildren's inheritance and enjoy it. So, what's their legacy?
There is none
Nothing.
because their
Plutarch, do you have anything to say on this one?
uh, do I? There is no legacy because they spent it all and then they turned around to their kids and on Twitter told their kids to pull themselves up by their bootstraps because, quote unquote, that's what we did. Now, as Steve, as you noted, they were handed the greatest civilization and the most advanced civilization in human history, and they squandered it. That's high time preference. Nick, you were also talking about their ability to maintain things. And Steve, you said, but are they maintaining it for themselves or are they maintaining it for the future? That's a good question because look at how they treated things that require maintenance beyond what the individual can do. I'm thinking things like the electrical grid, the roads. Okay. Right, exactly, Nick. The boomers were way more interested in funneling the government largesse that they inherited towards their
Yeah.
preferred.
Nihilistic dreams.
Yes. They were going to literally save the world from itself. They were going to be the ones that would solve global warming, aka climate change. They were going to be the ones who were going to solve wars. They were going to solve the problem of war. There were never going to be any wars. They were going to solve. Oh, do you guys remember the war on poverty and the war on drugs? Okay, so they took all this money and they funneled it towards their preferred programs, and they were going to solve all these problems. They haven't. They didn't solve the war. They didn't. The war on drugs failed. The war on poverty failed miserably. But in
And they
doing
further
so,
destroyed the family.
yes, and in doing so, they cut funding for infrastructure maintenance to the minimum level that people wouldn't scream too loud. Some screaming was allowed, like potholes and stuff. You could leave that, but
Well, you got to keep
Like,
in mind, you can't spend all your money on maintenance of infrastructure if you have to keep up Social Security.
yeah, they spent it on. Really, they spent it on social programs. When you look at the list,
Absolutely.
And so they were going to solve all of these problems via social programs. They have solved precisely 0 of them.
they've made them worse.
Yeah, exactly. Where I live is nearby one of the world famous drug cities in the United States. And very specifically, the boomers are the ones who made that problem into the problem, into the world famous problem that it is today. Now, there's an irony here, but I'm going to let Steve go.
Okay, we're slamming on boomers. And we will probably slam on ourselves a little bit. So let's see. What's my next slide here? Okay.
It's your list of videos.
The videos. So Plutarch is going to play the videos. The first video. And I am going to credit my overall approach to this subject and the kernel of thought to Frank Zanu. So I do not want or intend this to be a racial thing. I am saying this man is going to introduce the importance of concepts and the concept of maintenance. And so we just need to hear him out. We need to apply it. Okay, you can apply it to race or to Africa versus Europe or America. Sure. You can apply it to men and women. You can apply it across generations. So this is not about race, guys. So we're going to listen to this, and it's kind of long, but I think it's all important. So you want to bring that up?
Hello, guys. Thank you very much.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
I can, yeah.
For your support, your following, your subscriptions. My channels are growing, but we got to grow faster. This is ZPR, Zano Project Rethink. My name is Frank Zano. I'm going to make this short response to something that was completely misunderstood. Maintenance. And I'm going to explain, and people will understand it. Because, I am a patient guy. I never get ruffled. I never respond to, toxic comments and stuff like that, because I respect all of you. But it's really beginning to be painful, especially my fellow Black people. Why you are not able to take a moment to think through things when you hear them, that you fly off the handle and begin to call people names, because I said the Black race, or let's call it African countries, and their languages do not have the equivalent or the concept of the word maintenance in their language. My conclusion was, if you don't have the concept of something, you're not going to be able to practice it. And people were like, I'm crazy. What?
Look, I think something's happened to us.
Is this too philosophical? Concept is what drives action. Concept is what drives understanding of anything. So let me ask you a question before I go into my rant today. So once I was in Europe, I think I was having dinner with non-Africans. And this is a common question I face everywhere I go. And they would ask me, so are you from a big family or a small family? They always ask me this question. And that night I said, the concept of a small family or big family doesn't apply to Africans. For Africans, you are always from a big family, because an African can never define family without including the few who have died, the many who are living, and the countless yet to be born is always part of what we consider family. In most African cultures, we have the ancestral relationship. So Africa, the few who are dead, the many who are living, including you, and the countless to be born. You will never have a conversation with a black man in the first 2 minutes without him saying, oh, when I was 8, my cousin came to live with us, or when I was 6, my niece, my nephew. It's always part. My uncle, grandpa, grandma is always part. So an African culture, always big family. So we don't think of small family. What is small family? There's nothing like that. Even if they are dead, they are still part of your family. So if somebody had asked you, do Africans have the concept of nuclear family? What would be your answer? No, we don't have that concept. Nuclear family is Western, Australia, New Zealand, United States, UK, Europe. Meaning, for them, family, if you ask, where is your family? To any American, he's thinking, oh, you mean my wife and children, or my husband and children. Oh, no, I mean your parents. Oh, I see. Otherwise, the first thing in their mind is my wife and children. However, for an African, if you say, where is your family? Even if I'm not married, I'm going straight to talk about my sisters, my nieces, my nephews, my mother, father, and tell you where they live. Because the concept of a nuclear family is not in our vocabulary. So how can we practice it? That is why we always maintain an extended family system. Number 2, before the missionaries arrived, if you are an African, do Africans have the concept of a God in the sky? They'll say, no, Africans don't have that God, that concept. That's why Christianity was not there before the missionaries brought it. If you ask Indians in India, do Indians have the concept of a God in the sky? No. Their gods are found in living things like the cow. If you ask a Japanese, do they have the concept of a living God in the sky or one who died in a cross? It doesn't even cross their mind. They wouldn't know what you're talking about. Because for them, Okami-sama is not the Christian God. So the concept of a God in the sky who will punish you after you die is not in the Japanese vocabulary. They will say, no, we don't have such concept. Is that not true? So why is it wrong if somebody said you don't have the concept of maintenance? Because you reduce the meaning of the word I meant maintenance to simply brushing your teeth and taking a shower. Some said, no, in our villages, the women always put clay on the whatever they call it. Cosmetic on your face is not maintenance. So what you see them doing is cosmetics. Because the women wake up in the morning and wash their pots and they sweep the ground. It's not maintenance. It's just a daily chore. So let me explain what I meant by African countries don't have the concept. Because if African culture has the concept of maintenance, you will not see what you see in Lagos, Nigeria on the streets. It's disgusting. You won't see what you see in Accra. As I speak, the government of Ghana is so tired with the blight, the trash, the congestion. It's about to move the city out. The city is filthy. If we have the concept, so maintenance is not you have money to repair your airplanes and your train stations. No, that is an extension of maintenance to national infrastructure. For you to know if a certain culture has maintenance, once you walk into that country, Watch the people. When they unwrap a candy, what do they do with the wrapper? That will tell you if that culture has the concept of maintenance or not. Africa started not as paved roads and skyscrapers. There's nothing wrong. That was our environment. So we don't keep cats and dogs and goats and sheep inside our house like white people do. The cats, the goats, the chickens, they are all roaming around the streets. The drivers slow down for the goat. In Kenya, they slow down for the cow, okay? We live with them. So why are you going to keep the trash in a plastic bag? Because you know when you throw it on the ground, it will be eaten by the goat, the cow, the sheep, even the lion, and whatever is roaming around. So in fact, by so doing, we are feeding them already. So for us, we don't separate ourselves from nature per se, because we lived with nature. And our gods were found in nature. The river god, the mermaid, the thunder god, the rainbow god, the mountain god, and the forest god. We live with nature. So for us, throwing a trash, a banana peel or a corn peel on the floor is not trash per se. It's not blight per se. You've done that for thousands of years based on the environment you lived in. It's better for you to throw it down so the next animal will eat it. Since you don't have money to be importing a pig food or a chicken food or whatever as white people will do it, how do you feed your dogs and your cats? Why do we leave our pets to roam around in the streets? Because we know we don't have enough money to be going to any vet store to buy them some specially made food. So that is where it started. And something you do for years and thousands of years, suddenly it becomes part of you. You don't even think about it. So that is what it meant. It's not that women wake up and they sweep. No, that is not it. That is cosmetic. It's called daily chore. So maintenance, basically, if you want to know if a culture has it, first watch the behavior of the people, what they do with their trash. When they eat while walking in the streets. When they want to pee, where do they go to? The government doesn't even care to build any public toilet for it. Most of sub-Saharan African countries. And so no police arrest anyone for peeing on the roadside. In the United States, an African friend of mine did it. Suddenly, a police came from nowhere. Can I have your driver's license or your ID? And gave him a ticket right there for peeing against a wall in the Bronx. Everywhere in Nigeria, they have a writing on the wall saying, please don't urinate here. I went to Jamaica and saw the same thing. I went to Barbados, I saw the same thing. And it's in Ghana too. We throw trash wherever we can find it. That is why the continent that generates a lot of garbage, we don't have any visible, sustainable garbage management company. We could have been using garbage to generate energy in Africa. So yes, I am telling it to you right now, there are many words that do not exist in some cultures. In Africa, maintenance is one of them. Let me explain. Maintenance is not what you do with railway stations and airports and your home. Maintenance is a proactive behavior. You look at a place, the way it was designed and built, and you say, this is how it's going to remain. Therefore, when you eat food, you don't throw it there. You are trying to maintain what you came to see.
Grammarly helps me get the best grades possible.
All African saw was bush roads, rivers flowing, jungles, and mud houses. What is it you are maintaining? Nothing. Then comes along the foreigner who came to build structures. Now that requires a concept already in the basic fundamental of your living to be introduced to those things. And so, like I concluded, not a single infrastructure left behind by colonials has ever remained, including Haiti and Jamaica and everywhere. Now hear this, my friends. The reason I made that statement in that video was because it is important to me. One, you see, when you examine a statement, it leads you to think. And then now you know why our cities are so trashed. Just simply accept. No one in Lagos is happy with the appearance of Lagos But everyone is guilty for throwing the trash upon the already existing trash. Maybe if you had taken that statement I made carefully and thought about it like an intellectual being, you would go home and ask your uncles, engage your family into a discussion and say, now we see why we throw things around indiscriminately. Now we can do something about it. It may not be from you because you don't have the concept, you don't even have the discipline, but you can outsource it like Saudi Arabia did. Next time you hear something in my episodes you don't understand, maybe it's better for you to leave more questions in my comments. And like you all know, I never fail to respond. But this is getting really annoying because most of you don't even understand the basic language in English, but all of you want to prove that you know something. It's annoying. Go back and find yourself. And what was funny was that an Igbo guy told me I was wrong and told me a word that represents or equivalent of maintenance. Another Igbo guy came and left a different word. By the time it was the fifth day, I have five different words from same Igbo people about what they believe is maintenance. So you're all running around and asking your drunk uncles to tell you there's a word like that in Igbo. And whoever heard what rushed into my comment section to leave it. Let's not do this. We all are saying we want to change that continent. The only way we can do it, regardless of how what the person said is unpleasant, take your time, examine it, think about it. With that, I say thank you all guys for all the support I get from you.
Okay.
I like that guy.
I thoroughly enjoyed that guy. He made me think. First of all, the necessity of concepts. And then the simple concept of maintenance. And how it evolves. How did you develop this? And there's too much in our civilization, in the blogosphere, whatever, us thinking, oh, we're so smart. Those Africans are not. They're adapted to their environment. They have the concepts. Things don't translate. What they were doing made perfect sense. And you impose a different order on them, it doesn't work. I mean, you can't just impose it. It has to be nurtured. You have to teach these ideas. And you know what? Us guys dealing with women, we talk about things. Do they understand the concept that is in our mind? Do we realize they may not have the same concept as we're thinking?
I'm going to say something controversial. As he was saying about the language problems in Africa, and this concept of maintenance is foreign to them, we actually have the concept of maintenance here, except there's about a little over half of the population that pretty much does not grasp it. That's the XX population.
Well, tying back to what he said,
Okay.
the XX population, which is a great way to describe it, has always had that done for them.
Right.
As a group, for the same reasons in Africa, they never did it. They never had to do it. That was not what they were expected or required to do. That was not the way that their world worked for thousands of years.
So let me put this into a practical thing. When one of these people enters a room, they flip that little switch and the lights go on. It just happens. by flipping that switch, they are entitled to have the lights go on.
Steve?
There's no clue as to what it takes to make that happen and how long those wires are and how much labor goes into that. Go ahead.
So this is actually something I've been thinking about quite a bit lately for reasons that we were discussing before the show. And I'm trying to come up with a word or a phrase for this because we're seeing this pop up in all sorts of places. For example, going back to women, Homath has this really good chart where, he's showing, oh, women want these guys and men want these women and all that. And he has this little like bookmark insert thing and he slaps it over the bottom set of guys and it says not people at the top. Okay. Because women, below a certain value, women, those men are just wallpaper. They're just an object, a potted plant. And that's actually what we're talking. That same concept is what we're talking about here. It's the same place that people say, I actually heard somebody say this. We don't need farms because you go to the grocery store where the food is made. They honestly think that all of the food just comes out of the back of the grocery store and it is made there and packaged there in the back of the grocery store. And it doesn't come from somewhere else.
So which one's worse? The Haitians that were coming over and picking up people's pets in the streets, or or that?
Well, they're the same because they both lead to the same outcome. Society they are not aware that something had to happen, that a lot of people had to work in order to make those lights come on. To them, it's actually more akin to magic. I flip a switch, the light comes on. They can understand the cause and effect, but they have no concept that energy to power that light came from somewhere else. And so,
like child support.
Yeah.
I flip the divorce switch and funds come in.
Yeah, flip the divorce switch.
So
all over the place.
I don't know. Six weeks ago, I was watching a whatever podcast stream. And do you know the topics that come on there? Like, do women need men? A lot of women say no. So this woman was arguing, no, women don't need men. Well, what about the infrastructure? We can use tools. We will use tools. Great. You have tools. If you lack the concept or the knowledge of how to use the tools, it's not going to work. How many skills do each one of us have? Okay, tools. You're going to wire a house. What tools do you need? You need a drill to drill through the 2x4s. You need wire. Okay, you just get the wire. Okay, you pull it through. Then what do you need? You need a utility knife and a wire strippers. You need a screwdriver. You need to bend that little wire around, put the screw through. And what happens if you twirl it around your screw the wrong direction?
Comes undone.
So you need knowledge. Okay, tools really don't do you much good. And now here's another example. That country called Zimbabwe. Prior to it being called Zimbabwe, it was Rhodesia. There was something like 350,000 English white people there. And the capital at that time was known as Salisbury. there was a lot of mining, and it was named after Cecil Rhodes, and yeah, okay, they extracted resources, and they employed a lot of black people, and they had trains running, and they had nice houses, they had electricity, they had a racetrack, and okay, there was there inequality? I'm sure there was. But the blacks wanted to move there. And a lot of people, the rest of Africa, came there because, wow, we can have jobs. And you know what? They got to ride the trains, and the quality of life was pretty good. Then it wasn't necessarily the ones there, but in general, people said, this isn't fair. The white folks have all the privilege, and they're depriving us. Never mind the fact that their overall life was better off after the white people were there than before. In general, I'm sure there's exceptions. So anyway, they have this big war, and the blacks take over. Did the whites remove all the tools? No. Did the white guys, did they tear up the railroad? No. Did they blow up or tear down the railway stations? No. Did they destroy the roads?
No.
No. Does any of that work today?
No.
No, this is kind of what
Hey,
they have.
they left this, and now you got to maintain it. You have to be a steward of what was given to you.
Yep.
It wasn't done. Okay, now this is not a matter of racial superiority. It's not a matter of IQ. No, it's a matter of the concept of stewardship. Now, what's happening in our country? The very same thing. The feminists are
Yep.
saying, oh, we want equality. We want to say, we want to do it. We don't need men. Okay, so they've lowered the status of the men who used to do this stuff. And they're just saying, we can do it ourselves. I'm
Yeah.
saying
Okay.
civilization will not last because, and Nick said it, they lack the concept of maintenance in what it really means.
Coming to a civilization near you. No, but really, so my sister does some infrastructure for the government, and in some places, look, we had these levee and dam infrastructures that were meant to last 50 years. They're built in the 50s and 60s, and they have not been updated or redone. And so they're going on like 20 plus years in need of being replaced. And guess what? Can they get funding for it?
No.
Oh, what used to cost them a lot less costs them a lot more, and they'll probably do a
So
crappier job, and it probably won't
if you have a
last.
small crack, in a dam and you don't grout the crack or fix it or drain your reservoir to put another slip layer in or whatever, and you just let it go, is the dam going to collapse? No. Is the crack going to continue to seep through? Yeah. After seeping through for 10 years, 15, 20 years, is the crack bigger? Yep. Now, can you fix it? Maybe. It's a hell of a lot more work. And eventually it'll get to the point where, no, this crack cannot be fixed. You got to tear down the whole thing and rebuild it because you didn't maintain what you had.
Yep. And we lived in a society that wanted to do social engineering instead of actual engineering. So there you go.
Nick, well, Nick, why did we want to do
What?
social engineering instead of actual engineering? Why did we do that?
Which answer do you want?
Well, okay. The answer I was going to say is because we put women in charge, and women think socially, not civilizationally. You know, there's a discourse going on Twitter back and forth, and it's about this concept of matriarchal civilization.
Mud huts.
Well, right. And people say, oh, but there have been matriarchal cultures in the past. That's true. They never get past mud huts. Okay. Because at the end of the day, the fundamental biology of humanity is that men are stronger than women. Men defend women from external threat. Civilization was a technology that was invented to make the defense of eggs simpler, easier to achieve, more effective. I mean, we can talk about the wall around Jerusalem if you want to go back to the Bible. Humans built walls around things to keep people out. Well, that takes big, burly, strong men. I didn't see the women. You don't see the women out there doing it.
So, what's the difference between a culture and a civilization?
There's a few different things. A hierarchy. There's generally a hierarchy. Culture may not have a formal hierarchy. May or may not. Civilization also requires generally some sort of fixed boundaries, structure, trade, law codifications. Oh, military,
Okay.
some sort of military might.
Nick, I have one more I want to add to that. Sorry, Steve. I have one more.
Go ahead.
One of the key components of civilization is who is in the civilization and who is not in the civilization. And just as a thing, I have heard lots of women say, oh, it is up to us to keep the family, tribe, etc. together. No, it's not. In fact, that nowhere in the Bible where you find that is a authority given to women. In fact, that is an explicit authority given to men.
And if you think women are going to keep civilization together, who keeps voting to bring in people that continue to dissolve a cohesive identity by which we can have a civilization with mass immigration?
Right.
Who keeps siding? Yeah.
Men decide who is in the tribe and who is not in the tribe, not women. But we have put women in power. And then, of course, women have invited in the whole world because the whole world deserves it. Don't you see? They're hurting. If we could just get them here to the United States, they will touch our magic ground, our magic dirt, and breathe our magic air, and they will magically take on all of the things that make our civilization, and it will just all be happy, and everything will work perfectly, and I won't have to think about anything.
And they can have it now.
Yes.
Wow. Low time preference. So we'll get into that quickly. But does south of North Africa, Libya, Syria, the Middle East. Okay. That aside, did Africa ever develop a civilization?
No.
They had a culture, they had tribes.
Yep. Yep.
Now let's think of with the concept of civilization. The great civilizations, or even just the ones existing right now. You have the English civilization, which is England, Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand. That is a distinct civilization. And I would argue, I would split it off and say you have a European civilization, which is a lot of countries in Europe. You have a distinct Russian civilization. You have a distinct Chinese civilization.
Yep. Yep. Japanese.
Turkish.
Japanese is an old
Japanese. Yes. Japanese. Yes. Korean. Yeah, I guess they're distinctly different. Turkish.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now you're kind of bleeding between them and Persian. The Persian.
Ancient civilization.
No. Yep.
Okay. Now, what do these have? They all built buildings. And it's gone on, all these gone on for hundreds, some of them thousands of years. And so they're planning for the future. They're building things, aqueducts. They're planning, they're building. They take care of what was given to them, and they leave a legacy. So now you see where I'm going with concepts necessary for civilization. Now, could there be more than I'm talking about here? Probably, but I think these are three critical ones. So whenever you guys are ready, we can move on to Mr. Aaron Clary.
All right. I think I have it queued up correctly here. And we're going to, you want about 8 minutes of this?
Yeah.
All right.
A friend of mine recently started dating a girl who's a complete shit show. She's pretty average looking and not terribly interesting. But the real issue is her career and education. That's going to be most of the girls nowadays. I'm very pro women having a career, but a career in a real field. And unfortunately, the vast majority, but a disproportionate percentage, not 50%, but higher than that, of women's, quote, careers are not careers. They produce nothing of value. They are basically government make-work programs where there's indoctrination and politics and socialism and all that other stuff. And not only is it a waste of taxpayers' money, they ruin their lives in the process because I don't know how you can, a social worker. I mean, you gotta be really sad at some level realizing that all the sociology and all the social work in the world has done jack all. You haven't solved any problems. It's a spectacular failure. Economics, same thing. I mean, you got to be really depressed as an economist as government debts rack up, GDP is slowing down, labor force participation is going to pot. I mean, you just got to be like, well, you didn't solve it. But most people don't have an intention of solving these problems. Most people knowingly, consciously are just making money. That's their career. And they're avoiding calculus and programming and other real things. She has a degree in political science and is attending a ranked, not published, Tier 4 law school. She has about $250,000 in student loans. So she's not even done with the law school. She's already got $250,000 in student loans. Is she going to go major in social justice and make change and make all right with the world? Will she bring equilibrium to the force? Is she the chosen one? How much you want to bet she's going to want the taxpayers to bail her out? All right. However, when I was talking to her about her future career plans, she seemed to ooze with confidence and said, direct quote, once I make partner at a law firm, I'll be making around $3 million a year. Okay. So this right here goes beyond simple brainwashing and misinformation that every young person, male or female, gets about their career prospects and socialism and communism and social justice warrior and politics and yay. This sounds like an egomaniac. she obviously is living a lie. I think deep down so inside she knows she's living a lie, but this is all that she has to go on. But this is delusional that if she thinks she's going to make partners, she's going to make $3 million a year. I know a couple lawyers that are partners in sizable, serious, white shoe law firms. They don't make $3 million a year. 600,000, not $3 million. Nobody that is capable of paying her $3 million a year is going to hire someone from a ranked, not published Tier 4 law school. They're just not. And her background degree in political science, no one's going to touch her. Oh, some nonprofits and touchy-feely, and she'll be predispositioned to like, I've been violated, I'm discriminated because I'm female, because that's what she's been taught to think. So she'll go work nonprofit, campaign, maybe do volunteer work. But she's not going, no one's going to pay her. No one's going to hire her. And certainly she's not going to make partner at a prestigious law firm, let alone one that pays $3 million. She's delusional. She's not, this is not a mentally healthy individual. I wouldn't say she's psychotic, but she's definitely delusional. I'd like to know how you think someone could be so completely delusional. How common people this insane are, and what's really going to happen to her once she finishes law school, and what will her future look like? All right, let's take these one time. How do you think someone can be so completely delusional? All right, well, first off, most young people are delusional. I was delusional. I think everybody was delusional in the Western world, because for the most part, our parents' generation, not necessarily our parents, but our parents' generation sucked. They lied to us, consciously or not. And especially the millennial generation, the parents just didn't want anything bad to happen to them. And instead of telling them the hard truth, most parents have taken the easy way out. They've never spanked their children. Everything is an accomplishment, constant praise, constant positive reinforcement, never any punishment, never any negative reinforcement. And they've never told you how the real world worked. So you go from this artificial environment of childhood, I mean, from 0 to 18, which is only reinforced in K through 12 school, this delusional la la land. Now you extend that by another 4 years, in this girl's case 5 years, because he said it took her 5 years to get an undergrad school. College is just that on steroids, except you're paying a pretty penny for it. And here's where you get the real head, especially in a liberal arts program, where you're getting leftist indoctrination. And then they're telling you why you're entitled to this delusional dream that has no anchoring or bearing or foundation in the real world. And I looked up the efficacy of brainwashing, and it was very interesting how they looked at prisoners of war where, the Chinese would capture an American, or we'd capture this, and the CIA would try and turn people on, and the efficacy is actually very low. But when it comes to indoctrination and propaganda, and you give worthless people, and that's what this person is, a worthless person, some kind of cause or crusade. In this particular case, it's been socialism of its variant formats. It could be feminism, it could be environmentalism, veganism, or merely a fight the system. Donald Trump is a racist, bring him down. You give these otherwise worthless people a cause, then they'll go for it. I don't know if that's necessarily brainwashing, but it is programming. So I think people are very delusional. I think everybody's delusional to a certain extent. But the only people who aren't delusional are people going to the military, people going to the trades, and people going to engineering or programming or computer sciences or something like that, because they know. They had a dad or a mom that said, look, you're not majoring in this stuff and paying $250,000 for your worthless, strip mall law school. So those people have an anchoring in the real world because they have good parents. Everybody else, which I'd say is about 80% of the population, is lied to some level. Now, to the level that she is, where she thinks she's going to make $3 million at a law firm, that is where she's taken it to. That's her own delusion. I think she has delusions de grandeur. I'm no psychologist, but I think that's what she has. It was certainly helped and propagated by the political science program. I guarantee you, if she went to a program in that school, that state, they were lining up to parade her and champion her because she's a woman and you go girl and da 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 da. So if you're in that cacophony, if you're in that echo chamber from kindergarten to now law school, you're talking what, 20, almost a quarter, what, 5 plus 8, 23? She's going to be in school for 26 years. That is going to have an effect on you. And so she may be having these truly delusional expectations. And that may be higher than the average person graduating with a liberal arts degree or going to a crappy law school. But that environment, the K through college environment that she's in, has definitely been very fertile breeding grounds for her to get this delusional expectation. If she did a stint in the military, I guarantee you she would not be thinking, if she was forced to pay her actual tuition and actually support herself, rent with a roommate and bus fare. We're talking a very minimalistic. She would not have these delusions.
All right. Well, yes, Cappy, we agree. Women are fucking delusional.
But he talked about men are delusional too. They
Yes.
have to break out of it. You can't eat your seed corn. You can't have it now and kick the can down the road and just hope, wish, pray. Somewhere, someone's going to pay you all kinds of money to pay for it.
It's eat, pray, love, Steve. Hope, wish.
I didn't want to use that one, Nick.
Oh, come on.
Hope, wish, pray. Isn't that what I said?
Yeah, hope, wish,
They're
pray.
obviously going to eat. And love, I don't know. Does love come into play here? I don't think so. But this idea that you haven't done anything, you don't understand the world, but you're going to go get this wonderful degree. You can have it now and you can pay for it later.
And contribute nothing to civilization.
That's low time preference. That's the lack of thinking in the future and legacy.
No,
backwards. High time preference. Yeah. Low time preference is thinking about the future.
Exactly. You're right. Thanks for correcting me.
It confuses everyone because you think, oh, low, it's low preference, right? And so you say, oh, well, right. I'm not thinking about time. High time preference is thinking, inability to think forward or look backwards, right? You have a preference for the current time. I don't know if I would use that, but that's the term that the academics use. So, okay. Now, there's an interesting thing, and I was thinking about this because we did that stream on IQ a few weeks ago, and I kind of came down pretty hard on the midwits. That 110 to 130 range. And are the midwits responsible for a large number of problems? Yes, they are. The midwits are the ones who go to college and get law degrees. I mean, like that's the IQ range that lawyers tend to live in. Okay. And, Cappy's sitting there going on about how, she's, person's delusional and she's going to rack all the problems. It's absolutely true. Not all midwits did that. Thank goodness. Oh. Because here's the thing. In any tribe or any society or any civilization, there is a hierarchy. We've talked about hierarchy at length here, and I'm going to talk about it some more. Because there is also a hierarchy in intellect, and it is tyrannical. Somebody who has a person with an IQ of 90 cannot solve a problem that a person with an IQ of 105 can solve. It's not possible. The more complex the problem, the higher up the hierarchy you have to go. But let's say you are in that range, in the midwit range, okay? Find someone or someone's to be led by, because in that range, you still can exert an enormous positive impact on the world. Because if you remember back to that stream, we were talking about how you have your 70s, 80s, and 90 IQ people, and they can do various levels of things with various levels of supervision. Well, the supervisors tend to be more in the midwit range. Okay. Midwit doesn't have to be a dirty word. It is because we've allowed the midwits to run the asylum. Okay. But you actually have a place in the hierarchy of the tribe where you can be very useful. You can look out and you can say, oh, I need to organize the group of people that I'm responsible for to deal with this type of problem. And we used to order our civilizations this way. How do we think the electrical grid was built? It wasn't all built by dudes with 150 IQ. I'm friends with one of the guys who owns patents on the electrical grid right now. Okay. But it was built by somebody like him saying, okay, this is what we need to build. And then people, lesser minds, myself included, because his IQ is higher than mine, would come in and say, okay, well, I can organize this and I can, and I can see how to do this and I can get people to take this piece. And you do that down the hierarchy. Okay.
Absolutely. The high IQ, gifted people do design it.
Yes.
And then other people build it. How did Rhodesia work? There were the designers and the bosses. Did they build the railroads? No, they didn't build the railroads. The Africans built the railroads. Who was in the steam engine at that time, shoveling the coal or running the steam engine? Who was doing the maintenance in the shops? Who was doing the track maintenance? Black people did all of that. They built it. They didn't design it. This is the same function we have here. Certain people design it, other people build it. And the maintenance is designed and overseen by the hierarchy, the smarter people on top, and then the average folk, the midwits, who are well above average, and the average people just do their job. They do the work. And this is a wonderful way to organize a civilization. Everybody benefits.
It's wonderful because it follows natural law. It follows the nature of humanity. This is how the world was intended to work. This is how the world was designed to work. And these socialists, Cappy's rag on the socialists and good on him for it. They come in and they say, oh no, we are all equally equal. Bullshit. No, we're not. And in trying to come in and make everything equal, they have told the people who are less than average that they are more. And then they've told the people who are more than average that they are less. And so you have people who need supervision who actively fight against the supervision because they are more. And at the same time, the people who could be designing things and ordering the society.
No incentive to.
Exactly.
No incentive to.
Exactly. Yeah. Why should they?
Oh, like men now. Why should we? Why should we? I mean, there's a natural desire to do this, be husbands and raise kids and build a legacy. But why should they? Besides the natural impulse and what God says, but other factors considered, where you're actively punished with a severe risk to just your own destruction.
Well, the data says, and we've talked about this before on our show, and I think we will probably talk about it again, that the situation is so bad that men are consciously overriding that base desire. Because I agree it's a base desire. It is a good part of the programming, but the system around it has been so perverted that and is so destructive to men that men are looking at it going, we would rather deny ourselves than be party to this level of corruption. I actually think I do think that there is a biblical strain there of men saying, I will not debase my morality to this level in the name of supporting some base desire.
Hey,
go ahead.
They're trying to do it right now. I mean, we've been trying to do it as a society. We are trying to enslave the designers.
Yes.
The smart people.
Yes.
The workers. It's an inversion. Women invert things. The divorce is an inversion. He takes the children, which are his legacy, and he's supposed to be the head, the leader, the provider. She inverts it. She becomes on top, and she enslaves through society, through the courts, enslaves the man. So the master becomes a slave to the servant. Well, you know, I'm using these words kind of imprecisely, but hopefully you can get the
Okay, well,
drift.
Rollo Tomasi. Responsibility with no authority is slavery.
So men are avoiding this trap. They see young men see the trap. The trap has now been revealed because it's been sprung on so many men before them. Fuck. Look at all those guys. They walked into that. Man, I'm not going where those guys went. They're actually pretty smart to avoid it. Okay, on this issue of IQ and midwits, I want to explain the difference between values and principles. Now, for those of us my age, maybe even a little bit younger, you remember back in the Jerry Falwell days, the moral majority. And that Christians were all about family values and supporting Ronald Reagan. We still hear that, the values, and a lot of the Christians, the tradcons, values. They're promoting values. Guess what? I don't care about values. Why? Why, you may ask? Because I care about principles. I identify the principle and the concept, and then I apply it. Principles are what the more higher intelligence people, they abide by principles. Values are determined by a consensus of society. So you have your conservative values, you have your tradcon values, and they're all consensus driven. And then you join the group, and you virtue signal about how you embody these values. Guess what? Even on the left, you have the woke people. There are woke values. A woke value is equality, DEI, embracing the immigrants, all kinds of woke values. They're the same kind of people as the tradcons. It's the same mentality, thought process. They're just on different sides, and they have different values, but they both really embrace these values.
The,
So-
the tyranny of the tyranny of subjectivism or relativism given by a majority instead of objective truth and objective law.
So, Alex, yes, you are correct. We are surrounded by people who cannot understand these basic concepts.
And that's why values are important. Because they're not able to understand and apply the principles. That requires a greater level of abstract thinking. So values are telling people what to believe, not why they should believe that.
Yeah, I was thinking about the church in this context. Much of the order of the church, and Nick had to step away, it looks like. Much of the okay, cool. Much of what the church did was organize the principles that Christ spoke of into a value system that could be taught to people who at the time could not even read, and who the language that they used would have been very, very basic. And so the church had all these principles and all these words that they needed to get out to the general population. And so they created a value system, and they created a system that disseminated those values. Right?
Exactly.
And in doing so, they inadvertently created an entire culture and civilization sprung up from that culture of the values that were espoused in the Bible and the principles that were given in the Bible. So the church's
all good.
Yes. So the church's function was to create a hierarchy for the dissemination of values that come from principles. This is how, yes, this is how humanity is supposed to function. And there's absolutely nothing saying that we can't take that same thought, that same realization that the church fathers had, and say, oh yeah, we need to do that with the secular world. You need to find competent, intelligent, mentally stable people, put them in power somehow, and then shut up and listen to them when they say, we need to do this, we need to do that. We should not do this, we're not going to do that, right?
Yeah.
Now,
unfortunately, we have a system where you have to buy in to be recognized. You have to basically scratch the guy's back, say pleasing words, and go by the donor policy to even be considered for these high positions, which are actually needed. And so you have a bunch of political figures doing politics instead of actually building and upholding civilization today.
Well,
okay,
Nick,
so
how do we
in
fix
order
that?
to be selected, I have to become one of you because I want the support of all my group. Well, let's say it's the conservatives and the trad gods. Therefore, I have to adopt your values. And then I have to virtue signal among the group that you go, oh man, look, that guy is so great. He has all our values and he exemplifies them. That's what's necessary in a democracy because it's an election by the people. Whereas in a true hierarchy, there are those above that say, yeah, I'm not going to follow that one because you're misapplying it. I'm going to do this. Yeah, it's going to be hard on everybody, but it's necessary. We need to cut all this other crap and spend money on fixing this dam right now because it's for everyone's good in the long term. Yeah, we're all going to have to suffer a little bit now. It's not popular. He's applying principles. And you know what? That's not allowed in a democracy. He's not going to get elected. He's not going to be chosen.
I think, Steve, that would be possible in a limited democracy. I'm thinking Greece, but I'm also thinking the system that the founding fathers originally set up in this state that we perverted in the name of appeasing the women.
Like a democratic republic, maybe?
Yeah, and
where where there wasn't universal suffrage?
I'm thinking that's a big part of the problem. Because, okay, so, and I think we've talked about this before. If you are a landowner, and if you were a landowner in the United States, even before it was the United States, you were probably reasonably intelligent, because think about what a landowner had to contend with. They had people working for them. Yes, we know the history that not all of those people were willing labor, but there was actually willing labor in the mix too. They had large amounts of land for these people to look after. They had to figure out things like crop rotation, irrigation, animal husbandry to figure out how to, drive the implements through the crops. They had to figure out crop schedules. They had to be amateur meteorologists to figure out, what the weather was going to do. These were not stupid people. And because they had a buy-in and their continued existence on their piece of land depended on being able to see forward as to what the larger nation might need to do to defend that land, they would vote in certain ways to make sure that the civilization not only maintained itself, but even improved itself. Because they looked at it and they said, well, I got this land from my father and I will give this land to my children. And then they will give that land to their children. And I need to make sure that the civilization around that made this possible can continue to make it possible for my children. Very low time preference. The founding fathers were actually
very much
very
legacy based.
Oh, yes. But you can't do that in universal suffrage, because now people who don't have that kind of buy-in to the system have an equal vote to the people who do. And those people do not have the legacy mindset. They do not care whether or not you, the landowner, pass along your land to your children. In fact, in most cases, they're going to say, no, that is evil. The land should be given to all the people because, well, that is fair. That is equal.
But do you really own your land anyways these days? You have property tax, where you can buy a piece of property. It could be almost not worth very much. Fix it up, and over time, for some reason, the property value goes way up, and you have to keep paying more taxes. And guess what? Grandma and grandpa don't make that much money anymore. They have to sell the land.
So Nick, I have two thoughts about this because this discourse has come up a lot on Twitter. First of all, property taxes were the only recognized taxes in the Constitution prior to 1913. And the reason for that is that the founding fathers realized that the money was going to have to come from somewhere, and the tax needed to be on the thing that was held by the voting population. Right. So if your voting system is based on property ownership, then you're going to have to tax property ownership. And then you have achieved taxation with representation. So I get a little annoyed with the discourse because it's like you guys are actually talking about the one tax that actually kind of makes sense. Now,
you can't get rid of it. It's required.
Now, there is one little foible about the system. The government has figured out that it sets the value of the tax of the property and then taxes you on the value. That's the mistake we've made. The value of property should be done by independent assessors, not by the government.
So I want to move on to the next one, but before that, I want to start a new tradition when I run a stream. I want to have a little bit of an intermission here. So okay, this is the intermission.
Look at my engine. They are
Gotta blow it up.
company.
Gotta put Fuller's.
Very
can't
much
see it.
in my factory.
I
If
can't
you
see it.
need a thing, you can tell me. I can help you. Come on, take away. Many old parts in my warehouse. If you're looking for them, I can help you. Many engines in my factory. They are very company and perfecting.
Okay, Steve.
That has nothing to do with anything. I just think it's hilarious.
Steve.
Hey, we get a little bit serious about our discussions, so it's fun to have. Hey, just have a laugh in the middle.
Have random Chinese ladies singing about their auto parts factories. Okay. So, Steve, are we gonna bring up what's your next point here? What's your next?
Okay, the third one is accountability, and we've been citing women. So, and we're three Christian guys, so let's talk about accountability, and we're going to go with Mike Pentili, I guess is the way he pronounces his name. And this one's not very long. What, about 3.5 minutes or something?
You listed it as 4 minutes.
Yeah, okay, 4 minutes. 4.5 minutes.
About the epidemic of our times being the hypersexualization of our culture. It's a pornographic culture. We're inundated with all kinds of media and images and occasions of sin and lust, or occasions of lust, are everywhere that we go, whether it's women dressing scantily clad or images that we see on our timeline or any number of things. But one thing that gets often overlooked, thanks to feminism and the era of the longhouse that we've entered into, is the reality of female responsibility and the reality of the lack of female agency. Now, there's something that blows my mind, but it shouldn't, because I mean, it kind of just makes sense when feminism has given, women all sorts of things, essentially making them feel as though that they can act like men with none of the responsibility that comes with being a man. So this would logically follow. But there's this shaming of men, that it is up to men to carry the...
As a therapist myself, I know how important it is.
The majority of the share of the responsibility when it comes to the development of virtues, particularly with averting our gaze and not sexualizing women. And I'm certainly not advocating for that either. I'm a man. I call out men. This is the whole point of my channel and my social media pages in general, is I'm calling men to a higher degree of virtue. I'm calling men to follow the precepts of the church and the grace that follows from that. However, in the lion's share of the responsibility, I do think lies on men's shoulders, and it flows logically from the order of creation, Adam being the first fruits of creation and Eve being made from his rib. So it would make sense that men carry most of the responsibility when it comes to being a protector, being a provider, etc., many of these things. Now, I don't know what that ratio is. Is it 55-45? Is it 60-40? I don't know. I haven't landed with both feet on any of those things, and it's hard to really, properly conclude. But it does logically follow that men carry most of the responsibility. That's why I speak mainly to men. But instead of it actually being some kind of a back and forth dialogue where, hey, men are talking to women about, their role and their responsibility and their development of virtue, or women talking to other women and shaming other women, which does work and we need more of as well. It's almost like, yeah, men carry the 100% of the burden of responsibility, women carry 0. So it's not a problem that women are walking around leaving nothing to imagination with painted on leggings and booty shorts. No, it's a problem with men, in that men have to walk around with our eyes to the floor or eyes to the ceiling, to the sky, in order to avoid these occasions of sin, and that the women have no culpability. This is garbage. Now, it's clear that feminism and gynocentrism and everything, all the fruits that have flown or flowed from feminism have infected every area of our culture. This one in particular, too, where there's no female agency anymore. And what I find glaringly obvious is this hypocrisy that we've allowed to become sort of mainstream, that guys are typically, they shy away from calling women out. And we shouldn't, and neither should women. And it makes me start to think that this looks like to me a commandment violation, because this is also rife in Christian circles. This to me seems like a commandment violation. And the commandment in particular I'm talking about is the loving thy neighbor like thyself. If you loved your neighbor like you love yourself, why would you be an accomplice to sin? Why would you be an occasion of sin for a man? Now, it's not to say that just dressing sexually will, necessarily cause all these things to change, because there are a lot of men that are gooners that are going to remain gooners. So I'm not talking about those guys. I'm calling those guys out just as much, if not harder. But what I'm saying is putting forth an effort to actually practice the virtue of modesty, instead of calling men out to make up for your own lack of virtue. Okay. And that lack of virtue specifically is being immodest. Okay. Women are walking around not thinking it's a problem that they are an accomplice to sin, where many of their brothers in Christ are struggling with these things, and that they should make it a little bit easier for them. Just like, men shouldn't be sexualizing women. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But shouldn't there be some interplay in the growth of virtue as a culture and as a society, or we're just so wrapped up in ourselves that we forget about this thing?
Okay. That's pretty good. So that, I wanted to include that clip because he's talking about accountability. And we talk about this in the red pill sphere a lot. The lack of female accountability. We've all seen it in our lives, in our marriages. The lack of women being held accountable. It starts before marriage. We see it in the young women. They just wear anything. And they want the attention from the men that they want the attention from. But they get super pissed off if the, quote, not people look at them. Okay, they're not taking accountability. How important of a concept is this to civilization, where accountability, everyone is accountable? And Mike Pantili, he was correct. Men bear more of the responsibility in general than women, because he is the head. The buck stops here. Yes, that doesn't mean there is no accountability elsewhere.
Steve, I'll give you an example. So, this is before, I claimed to be a, converted Christian in my days. But in high school, you had the example, right? All these women, they had these really, tight, and revealing clothing, right? There's dress codes, but they found ways to get around it, all of a sudden, these thongs and G-strings would magically appear in their closet. They were not responsible for those. being in their closet at all. It just so happened, and when they sat down, they really liked it when the cute guy behind them uh, noticed that the G-string was showing. But they got really mad when the non-humans noticed as well.
Not people are not allowed to do people things, and that includes looking at what you have reserved for the people. That's how the women are approaching this. If you are not people, you should know better than to not look. All of this is women attempting really to have men self-select for the women. The women don't want to even have to do any work to figure out who the men, the good ones are and who they aren't. You are supposed to self-select. You know, I was listening to the video and he said we should either look down or look up. Well, if you're a man and you're looking down, that is a stance of submission, right? The women want you to look down. They want you to look away because then they know that you are submissive, that you are submissive to what they want. They say, well, you shouldn't look at us. The Bible says you shouldn't look at us. So you shouldn't look at us at all, regardless of what we wear, because that's sin. And then they look at all the men who avert their eyes and they go, so I know all of you are submissive. And they look at the guys who look up and they go, aha, you're a strong man. You look up, your chest is puffed out. You know, you have it's women want men to select amongst men for who the women get. That so they don't even have to do that work. Alex. Yeah, this is going to happen a lot when you ignore what the women want, because the women want you to say that the women want you to ignore what they're saying, because when they say do something and a man does it, you can immediately go, oh, you're low value. I don't want you.
Hey, but it's just man's fault, you know. How dare you just treat us as sexual objects, they would say. You know, what we have to wear has nothing to do with your responsibility as a man to not treat us as sexual objects.
That's the inversion there.
Mm-hmm.
Women controlling the simps, which is men listening to women. Women are setting the rules. Men are listening and abiding by them. Remember that I said, and Mike said, men have the greater responsibility. So let me say it this way, guys. No woman is ever going to hold herself accountable. That's why men are the head of the household. That's why Adam was created first. Eve, or the woman, was created as a helpmeet. He is in charge. The hierarchy, holds the people under his domain. He holds them responsible. He holds them accountable. So you're never going to get anywhere as a society or civilization by wringing your hands and saying, I wish women would be more accountable. They should hold themselves accountable. That's not going to happen. It never will.
Because, as we discussed earlier in the stream, women never have been. It would take thousands of years to bring women up to the ability to do this, and they still would suck at it compared to men. Because remember, the men aren't staying still during this whole process, right?
Hey, you know what? It's impossible because God created women with the essence they have. That essence has never changed, never will change. The essence of a woman is to not really have the ability to hold herself accountable.
Right. Well,
and really, when you think about it, a man doesn't hold himself accountable either.
Other men do.
What does a man do? He understands there's a hierarchy. He's accountable to God. A good man understands he is accountable for his actions to God.
I think what I was trying to say is that you could spend thousands of years trying to make women this way, and all you would succeed is doing is making defective men, which is in the past 80 years all we've succeeded in doing. At some point in an experiment, you go, this ain't working, theory bad, theory invalidated. Let's cut our losses and try something else.
No, what you've seen is double downing on the social engineering, like we saw with the certain Transformers and very sick, unfortunate events that happened about a week ago. Yeah,
right.
It's feelings over reason, emotions over reason.
Honestly, I don't think we have much longer to go before reality asserts itself again. I think the assertion is going to be
gravity always reasserts. Gravity never goes away. Let's put it that way. Gravity doesn't really go away. There's always a sense of gravity. You just might not feel the effects immediately. Hence nature will reassert itself, even though you might feel free at the moment.
Yes.
Hey, Nick.
Yes.
Nick, why don't we suggest to the feminists that they should overturn the law of gravity?
Gravity. Oh, okay. We need to figure out how to sell.
That actually might be possible for them. That actually might be able to accomplish.
Guys. Okay, now you've got me thinking as an engineer. How do I engineer convincing women that gravity is oppressive? And I mean, I can think of the effects of gravity on the body. I mean, it disproportionately affects their chest area over men. So that's an oppression.
It's bad for scales. It's bad for scales too.
Hey,
man, yeah.
Don't you know? Gravity is an artificial societal construct that was developed and enforced by the patriarchy.
Yep. To fat shame women.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Gravity was invented to fat shame women. Actually, I would say it's as a joke, but not really. The red pill should start pushing this narrative because similar things have been done there was this famous study that was done in academia where basically they wrote this flowery article about how I think it was bestiality was some sort of gender construct and that made it all okay. I forget what it was. This was years and years ago, but yeah, I think we in the red pill should start trying to convince the feminists that gravity is an artificial construct created by the patriarchy for the purpose of fat shaming women. Just to fuck with them.
This is an interesting line of thought to go down here.
And I see the chat is already having fun with this. This is great. I'm going to pull some of these up here. Chief, yes, you are correct. No gravity, fuller hair. Tacticus,
bouncier breasts.
Oh yeah, you would definitely have that. Tacticus, you too are a gravity victim. Yeah, we got to get the victim narrative in there. Gravity keeping women down since the beginning. Okay, Chief. That's a great one right there. Keeping women down since the beginning of time. There you go. That's our big idea for this stream is, not any of the high-minded stuff. No, go out and convince women that gravity is patriarchal.
Okay, let's keep going. So, Plutarch mentioned this at the beginning. Hopefully by now you guys have caught on. Intelligence, or high IQ, is not necessary to, for these concepts to prevail. But these concepts are more easily understood by people of high intelligence. Why? Because they are more likely to see the cause and effect of the lack of these virtues.
Well, and the thing I want to say here is that even people moderately above average intelligence, and I've even seen people of average intelligence. So it doesn't take much. When we talk about high time preference, it's almost always referring to your 80s and 90s. Time preference starts to expand pretty rapidly after that. So one of the things you can do as a highly intelligent person is to take up some of the principles that we've talked about and create a value system for people under them, and people of middling intelligence will be able to, they might not be able to see the far future. They might not be able to see the entire picture of how it all fits together, but they see enough of it. They can see forward far enough that you have use, you have utility. Okay. You are a worthwhile person to have around, to be a part of the system. And a hierarchy is not a hierarchy if you knock out the middle brick of the hierarchy, right? You build a pyramid, okay, you got 5 bricks in it, you knock out brick number 3, it's not a hierarchy anymore. Right. You need all of these. And so, yes, high IQ means that you might be able to see further into the future. Elon Musk is kind of exemplifying this with his, we need to make humanity multiplanetary. In what's unsaid there is, in case an asteroid hits us at some point in the future, we could survive it, or some sort of plague, wipes out humanity. Some catastrophic event happens on one planet, you have the other one to go. That is very low time preference, far future thinking. Most people, you would have to sit there and draw it out why it matters, and they would still have to understand the concept of an asteroid hitting the planet and wiping them out.
But they don't need to understand that.
Exactly. They don't need to.
And in a hierarchy, people on top decide, and then everybody follows. If you work at a job, you're employed by somebody, do you understand the reasons why your boss makes all the decisions that he does?
Nope.
And tells you, do this, do that? I don't need to. It's not my job. I don't have to do that. It's my job to do what he says.
It's actually a waste. It's a waste of time, energy, and other people's resources to worry about that stuff.
Okay. So, next point. Patriarchy embodies these 3 concepts. It's the same thing. The patriarch has to think about these things because ultimately he's responsible for making it happen. If you're not the patriarch, you're not burdened with these greater concepts and the need to understand them and fulfill them. It's not your job. It's the patriarch's job.
remember how I was talking at the beginning of the stream about how it is not women who keep society together, it's men? This is what Steve is talking about. The patriarchs
let's talk
decided
about-
who this tribe was.
Let's talk about these three concepts. And I'm stating them in differing ways, but they're all similar. Remember, I started out with maintenance, low time preference, and accountability, which I equated to Christian virtues, stewardship, legacy, and humility. These are also Christian concepts: work, discipline, and fear. Oh, what's fear? Oh, that's a bad word. Hey, the Bible says we should fear the Lord. Basically means he's the authority over us. He has the right and actually the duty to discipline us, to guide us, and to lay out the rules that we should abide by. That's the fear. Okay, it's not a bad thing. Oh, another maintenance is perseverance. You got to do the task. You got to stay with the task. Even if you don't understand the real reason for the task, you just have to do it. Patience. You can't have it now. Just be patient. It'll come. How many times does a parent have to tell that to their child? Nick, do you ever have to tell your children that? Not now, just be patient.
Yep.
Accountability. Oh, same thing as responsibility. And then I brought up three more. Diligence. Kind of similar to perseverance. Kind of similar to maintenance and stewardship. Just nose to the grindstone, okay? And then sacrifice. Low time preference and sacrifice. How does that work? Well, if you've ever been to a gym, you've heard the phrase no pain, no gain. And in order to get fit, it takes time, takes sacrifice. And you got to stick with it, and it kind of hurts. It's a lot of effort. And the last one is, responsibility. No, it's a duty. You just have to do your duty. As a husband or a head of a household, it's your duty to lead those within your household. You guys, if you've been listening to me, go ahead.
Well, you think of a military officer, diligent, sacrifice, duty. You're diligent in your task. There's time to make sacrifices. And then you have the duty for the cause and those underneath you. And same thing with civil, like a king. You can also think of the King of Kings, Lord Jesus Christ. He was diligent to do all the law of God. He sacrificed himself. He allowed himself to be put up upon the cross. It was his duty.
Okay, but I do want to interject something into, yes, it is your duty. But be careful who you sign up with, because it is your duty. It is sacred. And so who you give that sacred right to, your duty, matters. It's the most important. I mean, there's a reason we say marriage is the most important decision a man will make in his life, including the decision not to. Because the question needs to be, are these women worthy of the sacrifices that my duty requires that I make? And people are saying, oh, well, men should sacrifice themselves to maintain civilization. Why? You can't even sacrifice yourself. Yeah, you can't even sacrifice your independence to do your duty to the man so that he can take care of civilization. So actually, let me rephrase that. So that he has the desire to take care of civilization for you. Men not taking care of civilization is downstream. It is a result of what women have done, not a cause of it.
Let me suggest something here, and correct me if I'm wrong. Our modern world, our Christian churches, have told men they have a duty to women or a duty to their wives. Maybe they have no duty to their wives. Their duty is to God. And part of the duty to God is sacrificing, providing, leading their wives. Do they have a duty to their wife, or is the duty to God? And does the practice of it entail the same thing? Mutually submit.
There's
Okay,
duties
mutually
superiors
submit.
owed. It's not the same thing. There's duties that superiors owe particularly to inferiors, and duties that inferiors owe particularly to superiors. But they're not the same duty all the same. It's according to their nature, and the law is according to their position and nature that God has designed them and providence has put them in.
Okay, I'll go with that, Nick. But then I have another question. What is the duty one has to an equal?
Brotherly love, mutual prayer, support. Like,
What
say
kind of
he's your
support?
neighbor, he needs to. I don't know. Your neighbor comes over, or you see your neighbor in trouble. Somebody's busting into his house. It's your neighborly duty to take care of your neighbor.
Oh, so if my wife is my equal?
Oh, sure. No.
Oh, what kind of duty do I have towards her?
There's only one duty of equals in a marital relationship, and that is sex. Or actually, each are superiors to the other. That's actually be the better way to put it.
Correct. And so this duty to an equal, it's kind of a ambiguous concept to me.
It is, because you're not equals in every sense. Like you have duties to brothers or equals, but you'll have an older brother and a younger brother, so on and so forth. So you have difference in gifts, difference in age, difference difference in station. But a neighbor's still a neighbor, and you have a duty to the mutual support of your neighbor. Like you see the fence broken down, and his cattle has wandered into your property. Hey, you're a neighbor. Hey, you need to fix your fence, neighbor. But here's your beast that wandered into my land. Actually, you see that in biblical law as well.
Okay. So let's see. I think I might only have one more slide here. Okay, the credits. I haven't done this before. People I listen to. And It's just ideas. And right, we are blessed with YouTube out there and people doing long form talks. And all these people do long form talks. So, first one I'm listening is Frank Zanu. Hope you guys enjoyed him. Go check him out. Aaron Clary. You know, we've been listening to Aaron Clary for a long time. Mike Pantili. I just recently found him. E.M. Burlingame. Don't know if you guys have ever listened to him. I don't always agree with him, but he makes me think. I appreciate him. Dr. Edward Dutton. He talks a lot about intelligence. He's also known as the Jolly Heretic. Dr. E. Michael Jones. He's a Catholic author. He's written many books. Mostly I agree with him, not all the time. Dr. Danny Shulikowski, the only woman on this list. I recently came across her, and you know, she makes me think some of her concepts, you know, are in here. And then political economic commentators Alex Craner and Tom Luongo. You guys are going to have your own list of people you listen to. But I encourage you to find people to listen to. And hopefully you don't agree with all of them. And you have differences with some of them. And some of them you just barely can tolerate listening to. But they'll challenge you. They'll introduce you to new concepts. You might be listening to them and say, I agree with all this up until this point, and here's where you got it wrong. This will hone your thinking skills. It will cause you to be more analytical, it's critical thinking skills. It will challenge you. And you never know what revelations you're going to get when you listen to, well, there's what, 9 different people here? And then the cross-pollination of their ideas and their concepts, and you put them together, it can be astounding.
Thank you, Steve. So you're telling us the sources of much of your thought and how you synthesized them, and probably had some of your own ideas that you inserted to what you analyzed.
Well, I didn't get this presentation from any of these people,
right,
directly, but they influenced my thought. And you know, I listen to a lot of people come up with concepts. Well, Plutarch and Nick, I mean, I owe a lot to them too. That's how we develop things. So, do I take credit for anything new that I've presented today? No. Because things come up, I rediscover things that other people have said. Whatever I said here, someone said it before. Maybe I discovered it without stumbling across what they said. But thoughts evolve, and you can see it in the red pill manosphere, blogosphere, or the YouTube sphere, whatever you want to call it. There are concepts and things that are just ripe to be talked about. And then all of a sudden, everybody's talking about it. And who gets credit? Maybe no one. It just is an idea whose time has come. So I'm not taking credit for anything that I presented here today. It's just a discussion whose time has come.
Guys out there in the red pill space, it's okay to give credit to other people. guys in general, it's okay to say, you know what? I didn't think of that. Because I'll tell you what, even if you had a 200 IQ, even that person cannot think of everything. It's okay to say, I didn't know that. Or I don't know. The most surprised I've ever seen people is when I say, "Oh, I was wrong. I learned something from you." They go, "We as a society have gotten so wrapped up around this idea because of this, everyone is everything and everyone and everything is it's all about their own personal brand. So you can never be seen being wrong. You can never say, "You know what? You're right." Because if you admit you're wrong, what?
When you say that, do people end up having greater respect for you, or do they lose respect for you because you were wrong?
My experience has been not just greater respect, but greater willingness to work together to achieve more than two individuals could on their own.
And want to why build a civilization? What trait?
Humility.
Oh, what'd you say, Nick?
Humility.
At the end of the day, it is my belief that the era of the Ubermensch is coming to a close. Things have gotten so bad that there is so much work required that no single human will be able to, quote unquote, do all the work. It's going to take groups of people who come together. It'll be a group of people who know how to solve this problem, and they will be organized and they will be sent out to solve that problem. And then another group will come together and they'll be organized and they'll be sent out to solve that problem. But this will be done as groups, because the problems and challenges that we face today are beyond any single human. Not even Trump, with all his power that he holds in the president of the office, can solve the problems we face today.
So the reason I'm putting this back on the stream, for those of you who stuck around to listen to this whole thing, or are listening to it on repeat, maybe you want to write these down. Because remember them and reflect on them. Think about this so you can really understand. Maintenance, low time preference, accountability, and the Christian virtues of stewardship, legacy, humility. Think about these and how important are these to civilization? How important are these in your life? How important are these to those under your care? Wife, children, or if you're a woman who happens to be listening to us. Same applies. How are you applying these in your life? And to what extent do you apply them? Or accommodate or listen to those above you? I guess that applies to all of us. How do I practice these to those in hierarchy over me?
Good point, Steve.
I got nothing else to say. We've been at this a while.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. We haven't discussed who's leading the next stream, so you'll just tune in and figure it out next week.
Yep. Well, we will figure it out.
All right.
So, are we having a Saturday stream on Elena's channel?
Yes, sir, because if we don't, she's going to drive me crazy.
Okay. So, okay. we have to do the plug at the end. Well, I like to anyway. Elena's Bar Fitness YouTube channel. 9:15 Pacific time, 11:15 Central time. Figure it out from there. On Saturday. And I have no idea what the topic is.
She says
So-
nonverbal communication. I think it's part 2.
Oh, not
Yeah, it's part 2, I think.
okay. Yeah,
Remember, she brought
right.
all those books. She's got all those books she's
Right.
going to talk about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got so many words stored up. And I guarantee she's been using a lot of them on Plutarch, but there's just so many. We need to help out this guy because, she's got to use them up on somebody else. Otherwise, it'll drive them nuts.
I think with women, it's not just that they have so many words. I mean, they do, but it can't just be words for one person. You have to have words for all the people, as many people as possible.
Yeah, okay. And then next week we'll be back at our regular time. 7:45 Central Time on Wednesday, 5:45 Pacific Time. Okay,
All right.
that's all I got.
Well, we'll see you. We'll see you around, guys. Chat was great tonight.
Gravity's a bitch.
And yes, go forth and spread the message that gravity is patriarchal. That is your charge for the week. There we go. Guys, if you liked what we were talking about tonight, drop a like. If you have a question, there were some pretty heady topics in here. Drop a comment. One of us, well, Nick or I, will ask Steve, point him to your comment. And if you want to hear more, obviously, subscribe and you'll get notified. But we do this pretty regularly, so you don't have to if you don't want to. And we'll see you all Saturday and next Wednesday. Later.
There was a firefight! Son of a bitch!